they become more receptive to ideas that come from a broader array of people. You become more humble because it's very easy for a lot of leaders to think, hey, I'm the CEO, I'm the smartest person in the room, and not realizing you may be the smartest person in the room. You worked very hard to have that senior leadership title, but there's great ideas coming from the janitor on the other side of the world, somebody who doesn't speak great English, somebody who looks a bit different than you, or maybe a bit more introverted. And so I think leaders who go through an innovation journey and become better innovators become more humble at realizing great ideas come from a lot of different places.
And welcome to Strategic Edge, a podcast by leaders and for leaders. We're here to inform, instruct, and inspire leaders. We're going to share information about business models, about theories, but then we're also going to provide instructions. How do you apply those? How do you make them very practical? And finally, we're going to encourage you to act. My name is Ted Davis. I'll be your podcast host and your leadership coach. I have been a practitioner, a student, and a teacher of leadership now for nearly 60 years. And as my future guests and I inform, instruct, and inspire you, I encourage you to do three things. First of all, absorb what we share with you. Make it your own. Take it on. Take notes. Make it your own thoughts. Make it part of what you now believe about leadership. Number two, reflect on it. What does it mean to you? What do we affirm that you're already doing? What ideas do you pick up about how to improve? And then thirdly, we want you to commit. Commit to an action plan so you can continue to move forward. So we want you to absorb, reflect, and commit. And with that, let's start today's podcast. All right. I am absolutely thrilled. Today, I welcome Nick Jain. Is that pronounce that correctly? It's only 4 letters. Hopefully I don't get it wrong. Nick, a new friend. And thank you for coming on Strategic Edge. I look forward to talking about podcasts. Before you get started, let me just say to everybody, Nick, wow, what an academic pedigree. He graduated undergraduate from Dartmouth and then got an MBA from Harvard. So great credentials there. And he is an expert in innovation and software development and so forth. So let me turn it over to you, Nick, and you complete the introduction.
Perfect. Thank you again for the kind words. So yeah, I'm the CEO of IdeaScale, names in the background. We are the largest innovation software company in the world. So just like, finance departments have a financial or accounting system, a marketing department may have a CRM, we are the innovation operating system. And what that means is we help large, complex organizations. We build a SaaS software that helps large, complex organizations innovate. Our customers include Pfizer, Comcast, major banks, healthcare companies, the U.S. Post Office, Transportation Safety Authority, the guys in blue shirts at the airport. And we are the software that these organizations are using to get better tomorrow. And we use them to help. They use us to help them develop new products, new services, become more efficient internally, keep their employees happier. When they're innovating, they're often innovating with IdeaScale.
Well, that's wonderful. One of the things I always like to do, particularly when I'm instructing or training leaders and so forth, is always make sure we define the terms. What do they mean? So when you say innovation, we use it all the time, but let's make sure today, what do you mean by innovation? What's your definition of what we're talking about around it?
There's 2 definitions I like to use of innovation. Number 1, innovation is a process, not an invention. And number 2 is innovation is the notion that is the process of getting better each day at whatever you're doing. It are all facets of what you're doing. So it can be a new product. It can be more manufacturing something more efficiently. It can be keeping your employees happier because you've gotten better at something. And innovation is getting better.
Absolutely. I mentioned before we came on air, I had study innovation in my doctoral studies. And one of the things that I changed of mindset, I guess, I always thought of innovation as the original thought. And you had to have the original thought to be an innovator. And then my course of study, you can correct me if you think this is wrong. It's just you recognize new ideas for your organizations, and you can be the innovator by simply recognizing a new idea that you need and bringing it inside the organization and doing something with it. So does that fit with your perspective on innovation?
Yeah, 100%. I would say innovation is three stages. Someone has to come up with an original idea. Someone or a group of people have to realize that idea is interesting, that kind of recognition point, and then someone has to turn it into reality because and you need all three of those steps, right? An idea that never makes it out into the wild, as we call it, is useless, right? It has to make a difference in human society or for your organization or for the individual. So you need an idea. You need somebody needs to have the idea. It needs to be recognized as a good idea, and it needs to be turned into the reality in the real world.
So I just wrote down ideation, recognition, implementation.
Fancy.
Three.
Yes, I need to use those those three buzzwords.
Yeah. So it's ideation, recognition, and implementation. That's excellent. And it certainly makes innovation less cumbersome, I would say. And so you're helping companies that obviously have a problem and you're trying to solve it. And that's the impetus for the idea. So as you're doing that analysis,
Can I rephrase one thing?
sure, yeah,
It's less
sure.
that our customers have a problem, but they've realized they want to achieve something and software helps them achieve it better. So it's like you can run an accounting department without software, but you know that you want to do accounting better. It's a lot easier with software. If you want to be a runner, it's a lot better if you have access to gym equipment or sneakers. So we're like that for innovation. It's not that they have a problem. They just want to be, our clients typically want to be better at something they feel is important.
Right. Okay, so the problem, something is negative, but you could have just something positive and you want a better outcome, better process. And so you've got a goal, let's say, to do that.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And so then how do you walk your people through the ideation stage? So somebody comes to you and says, yeah, here's what I want to get to. I need some efficiencies in this area and so forth. How do you manage the ideation process?
Sure. So that's literally what our software does. Our software at its core is a crowdsourcing software that allows you to get ideas from a full array of people. So think of it like a social network for ideas where you can invite your entire employee base, your millions of customers, whoever you want, your community or ecosystem of people. Ask them to contribute ideas to crowdsource solve a problem that you care about. That could be, how do I increase employee retention? How do I increase manufacturing efficiencies? How do I serve more constituents? How do I get people through airport security faster? Whatever that problem is, you crowdsource ideas from your full ecosystem of people. Then you use that full ecosystem of people to recognize which ideas are good and bad by upvoting and downvoting those ideas. And like a social network, the best ideas rise to the top. And so like TikTok, where a funny dance, the best dance video, whether it be from someone in Thailand or Japan or the United States, rise to the top of your feed. Our software allows the best idea to rise to the top, regardless of where it's from. It could be from the other side of the world. And then finally, we help you turn that idea into reality.
That's awesome. How long does it usually take you to go through that process?
Sure. So it depends on the type of problem that someone's solving, right? If they're trying to design a new car, that process from beginning to end, those three stages may take years. If they're trying to figure out what's, I'll use a practical example. It could be as short as a few weeks. So when we decided to create a new company mascot because we didn't have one, we actually used our own software, asked all of our employees, all of our customers, actually anyone in the world could have participated. People from around the world submitted ideas, and it took us about 8 weeks to go from, hey, we want to have a company mascot to deciding what the company mascot was in a crowdsourced way. The winning submission, by the way, was actually from a new employee based in South Africa. So someone on the other side of the world who'd only been with us for like 4 or 5 months. And in fact, I submitted 3 ideas as CEO. 2 of them dropped to the bottom because people thought they were terrible ideas. One was a final 3. And that's how good ideation and good kind of idea meritocracies work.
That was awesome. And can you give us a case study, somebody that you walked through and what the outcomes were?
Sure. So I'll give an example from one of our big public sector clients. I won't name them. This is one of the biggest U.S. government agencies. And one of their agency mandates is to increase labor force participation. And one of the challenges they've been struggling with is how do we get more disabled people into the workforce? And that's a really difficult problem to solve because depending on your disability, there's certain jobs you can't do or are unable to do physically or mentally. And then from the employer's perspective, it's more expensive for an employer to employ somebody who has, different capabilities or lesser capabilities in certain areas. And an employer can't make economic sacrifice. That's like goes against the profit motive, right? That's a really difficult ethical and economic problem to solve. So what our client did is They used IdeaScale software to actually ask small businesses around the country, so the hundreds of thousands of American small businesses, hey, how can we help you solve this problem? What incentives can we offer you to get more disabled people in the workforce, to make it easier for you to employ disabled people so they can actually be full participants in the American economy? And that's very different than some bureaucrat or some senior, government official coming up with an idea. It's actually asking the employers who live and breathe these employment problems every day, hey, how can we make this easier for you?
Awesome. And what was the outcome?
The outcome was they instituted about two or three programs. They ran this campaign for about a year or so, and they instituted about two or three programs that actually increased, I believe, the labor force participation of disabled people by about half a percentage point or so. And that's, by the way, half a percentage point is actually very significant when you talk about labor economics.
I would think so. So you made huge impact, not just in the organization, but huge impact on people's lives.
It's a national, some of our customers are the largest US government agencies. So when we make a difference to innovation, we are often impacting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans. And actually, this is true for our foreign government agencies as well. We make a global impact at IdeaScale, which we're very, very proud of.
That is awesome. Well, congratulations. So what is the contribution that this innovation is making in the art of leadership? So you got CEOs, you got non-for-profits, for-profits, whatever. How does the innovation methodology that you use, how does it help them?
Sure. So what I would say is, firstly, every organization needs to innovate. If you're not innovating, you're dying, right? And that's true whether you're a public sector organization trying to serve constituents, whether you're a nonprofit. One of our customers, is like Doctors Without Borders or one of the biggest food banks in the country. They're serving people's lives. And then obviously lots of private sector organizations as well. The fundamental thing is, to stay relevant, you need to innovate. You need to get more effective, more efficient, develop new products, new services, deliver old services more efficiently. And if you're not doing that, you're getting outcompeted and becoming irrelevant. So I think where we make a difference to leaders is we help them stay ahead of the curve, because if they're not staying ahead of the curve, they're by definition falling behind the curve because their competitors or their substitute organizations are innovating.
Excellent. And so have your leaders that you've been working with, are they changed as a result of what they go through, or the exercises you put them through?
Yeah. So again, we're not a consulting firm, so we don't put them through exercise. We do give some advice, and then we give them obviously the tools, which is where we are extraordinary. Organizations that end up going through an innovation journey and adopting both innovation process best practices as well as good technologies like IdeaScale, I think you see two changes in the innovators or in the leaders of those organizations. Number one is they become more receptive to ideas that come from a broader array of people. You become more humble, because it's very easy for a lot of leaders to think, hey, I'm the CEO, I'm the smartest person in the room, and not realizing you may be the smartest person in the room. You worked very hard to have that senior leadership title, but there's great ideas coming from the janitor on the other side of the world, somebody who doesn't speak great English, somebody who looks a bit different than you, or maybe a bit more introverted. And so I think leaders who go through an innovation journey and become better innovators become more humble at realizing great ideas come from a lot of different places. The second change is an openness to experiment. One of the fundamental things about innovation or creativity is creative things almost always fail, right? Like 90% of the time, new ideas suck. They will fail. And I think people who are always focused on a batting average of 1,000, they're focused on easy, safe ideas that are going to work. But great innovations, on average, require experimentation and a lot of failure. And so leaders become more receptive to thoughtful experimentation and more receptive to controlled failure.
Wow, I love that. I love both of your points, particularly the humble leadership. In previous podcasts, we've talked about that. Two things come to mind is, and I think they probably fit into what you talk about, is Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, is level 5 leadership is, level 5, the top level. I love his definition. A level 5 leader has the paradoxical blend of humility and strong will. And it would seem to me that's kind of what you described. Somebody who's humble to recognize good thoughts are out there by somebody else. I'm willing to do it, but strong-willed to go through a process, which then, as you mentioned, realizes that everything can be successful right out of the chute. It's going to take time. Wow, beautiful thought. And then the other one that comes to mind about humble is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Edgar Schein.
I know.
one of my favorite social psychologists. He wrote a book on organizational culture. Well, I think the best book on organizational culture. But he also wrote a wonderful book called Humble Inquiry. That's about humble inquiry in the sense of you and I having a dialogue. Have a humble humility about how I want to have a conversation, how I ask questions. And even though his focus was about this type of thing, having a communication, it seemed to me that title is applicable to what you just said. I'm humble about inquiring what's out there. What are the ideas? I'm humble enough to inquire and get good ideas out there. So, wow, I love that that definition of innovation. That is awesome. And so, who've been some of the great innovators in your mind? Who've been some of the great ones who just kind of typify the character and the behavior that gets those results?
So I'll give a few examples, right? And some of them are very stereotypical, like Elon Musk comes up with great ideas, pushes them, ignores kind of everything everyone else says. But those are the famous ones that everyone can talk about, like the Steve Jobs and Elon Musks of the world. I think there's a lot of innovation is not just the great geniuses and the billionaires of the world. There's a lot of innovations that happen from nameless peoples, right? And by this I mean like lower level people in an organization whose name never gets out. Like the guy who invented the Barbie doll, I think was just a random junior toy maker at Hasbro. I don't even know his name, right? But he made a doll for, I remember the story. He made a doll for his daughter and like took it to work one day and it was like, oh, the greatest product ever, and just spawned an entire generation of toys. So I think rather than thinking of named individuals, inspiring individuals, because we can all look them up on Wikipedia, who the great innovators of history are, I want to take a moment to emphasize that a lot of what drives humanity forward are the small incremental innovations or the unnoticed innovations that over time compound and add up and drive humanity forward, right? No one remembers who got no one remembers the team of people who built the 12 nanometer computer chip specification, right? No one, I don't know their name, right? Who built the 12 nanometer versus the 18 nanometer, but those are truly impactful things in the organization that basically made AI possible, right? How many AI scientist names do you know? Very few, but look at the impact that they're driving on our society, the innovation they're driving on our society. Or what about the man or woman who made small process changes to manufacturing at General Motors that made the car 1% cheaper, but 1% cheaper on a $20,000 car, that's $200. That's meaningful to the average human being, right? Saving $200,000 on your car is good. It's huge.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, in the midst of the innovation, capturing that I gather and so forth, and you're working with leaders, what leadership models or what leadership philosophy, what's your guiding star in leadership?
Sure. I would say I have two. Number one is creating value. And I'll define that in a second. And then the second is measuring everything. I'll start with the second one first. I was trained as a scientist, and that mentality stuck with me throughout life that if you can't measure something and prove it's either true or false or positive or negative and quantify it, then it's not real. It's just voodoo. So I fundamentally believe that everything should be quantified. So when we hire people, we actually quantify the interview process, not just based on whether Nick likes Ted, but we actually measure like, what are your skills? Let's rank you objectively on skills. On hard skills, right? And that's true whether you're an engineer, whether you're a marketer, whether you're an HR person, whether you're a finance person. So we measure everything. And that's true on hiring. That's true in how we decide what features we're building for IdeaScale, how our marketing campaigns work. If it's not measured, it's not real. The second is creating value. So I'm a fundamental believer that private sector organization, actually, this is probably true of public sector, not probably, it's definitely true of public sector organizations, but the math is a little different, is that private sector organizations need to create value. They need to make ROI or return on investment positive decisions. And then once they create value, they need to divide that value between their three core constituents, which is their customers, their employees, and their shareholders. But in order to be able to create value for all of those three, you kind of have to create value in the first place, right? You have to bake a pie before you cut it up. So I fundamentally believe, and it's a very difficult decision-making paradigm, that we don't make decisions that are negative ROI. No matter how good they sound, no matter whether it's a sacred cow for someone, if it's a bad decision at our IdeaScale, whether it's negative or if it's negative ROI, we just don't do it, even if it's someone's pet project. That includes mine. So I often have ideas or projects, but people point out, hey, Nick, this is negative ROI, and so we kill it. It hurts my feelings a little bit, but we don't do it.
Well, that goes right back to being humble, realizing that, hey, you may have an idea that sounds good to you, but doesn't pass the common sense. That certainly doesn't pass the market test. And
Yeah.
I agree with you about the values. Matter of fact, I recently wrote an article that appeared in LinkedIn about 5 essentials. And number one, I think, is every organization exists to deliver something of value to the marketplace. So
Yeah.
people who routinely listen to this are going to hear me say that from time to time. But I think that you hear that, and it's like, well, no, duh, of course. What I think is so important that people start with, okay, we have to deliver something of value. Now, what is that? And being able to define it clearly enough, so that, and sometimes it's not just simply you make shoes, but what are the shoes used for? Like for example, if you're making shoes from climbing mountains, yes, you're making that shoe, but what is it you're helping contribute to the experience? You're equipping people for the experience. So what's the value you're delivering? The tool is the shoe, but it's the experience that they get out of it, how they implement it. That's what they're buying. It's the old adage. I'm sure you probably heard it. When you go to the hardware store and you buy a box of drill bits, right? What is it you're paying for? Uh, what do you really buy? Well, it's not the drill bits; it's the hole that they produce. That's the real
Yeah.
value. It's the hole it produced. It was just a tool to get what you wanted. And so
Yeah.
understand that
Make a
ethical.
hole with a fork too, but yeah, the drill bits are a lot better than using a fork to make a hole.
Absolutely, get the right tool. But really understanding what is the value that we're delivering. So I love that. I love your leadership model. Well, we've quickly running out of time, so I want to get to three practical tips. What is it that, having listened to us today, what are three practical things you want people to take away from our conversation today?
Sure. Number one is have a formal process for innovation. Go download the best, go ask ChatGPT for how your organization should innovate, or, use our software. It's completely free if you're a smaller organization below 100 people or a team of less than 100 people. Go, and if you don't like our software, go get one of our competitors' software, right? Go get software, because software is great. That's why software exists, right? Software is super powerful. That's number one. Number two, as a leader, you should be investing in continuous learning. So I spend between 20 to 40 hours every single month taking courses on Coursera, on YouTube, on brilliant.org, a bunch of these organizations, to learn both soft skills and hard skills, right? So in just, in the past month, I've taken courses on prompt engineering, database management, algorithms, and now doing a course on neural networks, right? As well as read books on leadership and more soft skill stuff. So go invest in continuous learning, because you need to get better every day as a leader. And number three, measure everything, right? That is my practical advice to everyone. Like, if you're not measuring it, it's not real, and you don't even know if you're, the worst example is, if you don't measure something, you may actually be doing yourself harm. And that's something people underappreciate. It's not just that it's not valuable, it could actually be hurting you.
Oh man, I couldn't agree with you more. I love those. So just to recap, and have a formal process for innovation. I couldn't agree with you more. Invest in continuous education, critically important not only for you as a leader, but for your people. And then thirdly, measure everything. A truism that absolutely, if you're not measuring it, gosh, it's going to eventually fail you. That is the three great points. Anything particular we want to share with people so they know how to get hold of you and how they can use your services?
Yeah, so two things. Firstly, our website is ideascale.com. As I mentioned a moment ago, our software is completely free for organizations or teams less than 100 people. So if you are a 20-person organization by yourself, or you're a 20-person team in a 10,000-person organization, come use our software totally free. It's not a trial, just literally unlimited usage of our software. We would love if you do so. Obviously, if you're a big organization and want enterprise-grade software, come be my customer. In terms of reaching me personally, the best way to do so is on LinkedIn. My name is Nick Jain. I'm usually the first search result, and I respond to 100% of DMs, so feel free to message me.
Excellent. We've now become LinkedIn first level friends, so we will stay in touch. Nick, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. This has been very thought-provoking, and I hope people will take away this idea of innovation. Find the good ideas and make them happen. So thank you, Nick. Best of luck to
Thank
you.
you, Ted. Thank you as well.
Now we've got 3 ideas of what to share from today's podcast. So again, what I'd like for you to be able to do is take those ideas, make them your own, reflect on them. What do they mean to you? And then thirdly, commit to an action plan. Commit to actions that you can take to apply what we've talked about today. If you want help, if you want some ideas, if you want some accountability, please contact me. Contact me by sending me a text, 913-306-1499. Put podcast follow-up in the text message, and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. Thank you so much for listening today, and I'll see you on our next broadcast.